Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my presentation for Management 530 Business Analytics for Managers. I'm Thomas Ramirez, and today we're going to dive into a data set that I stumbled upon for Montgomery County, Maryland Police Department. So we'll dive into that data set and discuss how using data analytics can provide decision support and actionable intel for leadership and or management. So we'll move into our bottom line up front. Montgomery County is located adjacent to Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. These are two of the top 50 most dangerous cities within the U.S., which creates a unique challenge. We do know that they have a considerable amount of data already collected. They do provide weekly updates to their data input, specifically from July 2016 to 2019. They've collected 1.8 million pieces of data related just to crime incidences. And so they feed this data through the National Incident-Based Reporting System, which also feeds into another system called e-Justice. And so what this presentation aims to conclude is how to leverage that data in conjunction with the organizational values to create better decisions and recommendations for leadership and management. Straight from Montgomery County Police Department's website, their organizational values consist of pride, respect, integrity, dedication, and excellence. And so the question is, how can this data be leveraged to support those values? Specifically, dedication. Verbatim, we are committed to providing the highest quality of law enforcement service to the community with the goal of enhancing the quality of life within Montgomery County. So we'll move into our analytics-based decision strategy and culture implementation. So essentially what we have really within the past few years is this notion of unused data. Corporations are realizing they have massive amounts of data that are just sitting there and relatively unused. And so we're entering the information renaissance, where we realized as a corporate America and other countries that we can utilize this data to process, manipulate, dig through, and realize there's actually some very important information and decision support material located within those data sets. And so we know that Montgomery County has already begun to collect data. This presentation will specifically look at some of the crime incidences that they've reported from 2016 all the way up until today. And so you can see already, back in 2016, they began to collect this data, report it for each of the incidences that occurred. 2017, you can see that they collected 11,000 incidences, and here we are in 2018, up to 53,000, and they've already started collecting data in 2019 as well. So you can see that there is sort of a lag. They weren't necessarily reporting all of the incidences back in 2016 and 2017. To date, we know they've logged over 71,000 crimes, which equates to nearly 73 crime incidences per day. So there's definitely some data-driven decisions that we can gain out of diving into these data sets. And so frankly, when you look at a data set with 1.8 million pieces of data in it, you begin to formulate some sort of idea how you can take this data and turn it into actionable decision support. And so the first thing I thought was, how do we take this data, decipher what are our top 10 dangerous cities within the county? So through the data analytics process, we were able to come up with this graph here to show we have, frankly, 4 or 5 cities that are taking up the bulk of the crime incidences that we have reported in Montgomery County. And I say we, not myself per se, but the police department itself. And so we begin to question, what does the data tell us? How can we shift our priorities? And then what solutions do we now have as we look forward to reverse trends? Again, here the goal is to look at the incidences that we have and figure out ways as a police department to reverse those trends and begin to give our people a better and more safe Montgomery County. Real quick, their mission statement is the Montgomery County Department of Police is to safeguard life and property, preserve the peace, prevent and detect crime, enforce the law, and protect the rights of all citizens. We are committed to working in partnership with the community to identify and resolve issues that impact public safety. This is just one tool that Montgomery County Police Department can use to leverage their data and create a more safer environment across the county. So as I looked at the data set further, I realized, what if we could figure out what time of the day we see the majority of our incidents happen? You know, you could utilize that data to determine patrol times, determine when your personnel should be on shift. So we manipulated the data to see the trend throughout the day. And again, using 1.8 million pieces of data over the last 3 years or so, you can begin to formulate a real credible trend. And so here we see that, to no surprise, I don't think to anybody really, you see that the typical crime incidences tend to occur in the latter part of the day until into the midnight hour. And so utilizing this specific visualization, I think the department would have a much better process as far as becoming more efficient, utilizing their resources better, which ultimately provides a better allocation of time and money for people and for the department as a whole. And then you also begin to realize how strategic plans come into place and how you should formulate your manpower standard. But really it's all about human resources, right? So utilizing your people right to provide that service to the community that the mission, vision, and the values attempt to get across. I'd like to remind the audience that Montgomery County PD has done pretty well at inputting data and providing data to the public. This was just one data set that they had dating back to 2016 of July, even up until February of 2019. And so as I looked at the data further, maybe you look at what type of crimes are occurring. You figure out what types of crimes are occurring, you can figure out what types of deterrence you need, and you begin to develop a more strategic outlook on what the department should be looking into and where they should be putting their resources in a strategic manner, right? So you begin to, using the data analytics, you begin to create a more you begin to create further decision-making processes that should work, maybe predictive analytics too. And so that's what I began to uncover as I went through the data analytics process with this specific data set. Again, I'd like to reiterate that the whole dynamic behind data analytics should, it's to strengthen and support your values as an organization. And for Montgomery County Police Department specifically, they pride themselves on beginning with pride and ending with excellence. So one of the huge advantages of analytics is the fact that you benefit from previously unknown information. And so we dive into the data set, you uncover the fact that there are crimes that are being committed more frequently than others. And then even further than that, if you look at DUIs, for instance, you can begin to decipher where specifically within the county that DUIs are typically occurring. And so with that information, I believe that the department could strategically place, let's say, DUI checkpoints across Bethesda, Gaithersburg, Rockville, or Silver Spring, because we can see that those cities are more frequently being subjected to people that are frankly driving under the influence, which of course endangers others, potentially you're potentially saving lives by looking at this sort of data within the data. And so we can see that there are some glaring needs across the county as far as DUIs go. And this could be said for any sort of crime. We could go in there and decipher areas within the county that we should strategically place our officers or our case holders to create a more, like we intend to do, create a better and more safer Montgomery County. So here I'd like to dive into the way ahead using the data analytics that we just uncovered, the previous charts and visualizations, again, based on only one data set from one police department from the past 3 years or so. And so through that analytics process, we determined that there is, in fact, a trend that suggests we have a peak criminal activity within the county. And so we can begin to evaluate the shift schedules, align those trends with what we saw on the chart, which was typically 3 p.m. to 12 midnight is the peak time frame that we see criminal activity across the county. So strategically speaking, we can set up DUI checkpoints because we know that 4 or 5 counties specifically, or 4 or 5 cities within the county specifically, are subject to the most amount of DUIs. So strategically, we set up checkpoints in Gaithersburg, Rockville, and Silver Spring, ultimately saving lives and providing that better, more safer Montgomery County like we intend. Additionally, we know that there are areas of concern. Our top 10 dangerous cities, we were able to decipher those based on the data set through the data analytics process, and we began to uncover information that was frankly there all along, but once we began to go through the process and uncover those items, we see that the department would benefit from a larger footprint in Silver Spring, Rockville, and Gaithersburg. Those seem to be the problem areas, and the solution frankly would be to increase the footprint, the deterrence, provide better, more efficient service for the community members out there. So predictive analytics would suggest that this would serve as a deterrent and eventually help drive down the crime rates within those areas. Moving on to manning, we can definitely use this data analytics process entirely as a way of creating a better manpower position. So we're recommending a manpower study to help reallocate the manning within the different agencies. We know that certain agencies are more busy than others, and this manpower study would create an excellent opportunity to better allocate those resources, ultimately saving money and saving lives across the county. Also, looking into the most prolific crime types that we uncovered, we can see that there are a few problem areas. For instance, shoplifting, larceny of auto, drug possession, and DUI, of course. Using that data, we can go ahead and further research into, say, the locations that we see the majority of those incidences occurring to help alleviate the problem in the future. So here I'd like to touch on some of the data quality and cultural change dynamics that Montgomery County could benefit from. Specifically, I noticed while performing the data analytics on the data set, I realized that there was a considerable amount of incidences that were reported as occurring at 12 noon. I believe this is an outlier. I don't think this is something that actually occurred within the county over the past 3 years. It seemed maybe this was sort of a default timestamp. So I would say that Montgomery County should place emphasis on better documentation, better reporting, maybe a two-step verification where they confirm what time the incident occurred and that's when it was actually reported within the e-justice system. Also, moving on to the data analytics culture portion. They may benefit from purchasing data mining tools. As corporations begin to come online and frankly begin to embrace the data analytics process, they're beginning to realize the pure amount of data that they have that's been unused. And so I believe a data mining tool would definitely help Montgomery County sort of dive into all the data sets that they have and create catalysts for change, which in this case you would have to think their catalyst for change is crisis, right? They have a glaring need within the county to lower crime rates. And so you would look to incorporate a team with industry knowledge into that new analytics process to sort of have both sides of the fences covered. We do know that natural to the police department business, you have data sets that are automatically being generated. This is known as observational data collection. So it's something that's sort of inherent to the process of being a police department. They're constantly recording data, recording incidences and crimes that happened under their purview. Also, it'd be very important to consider the security of their data. Naturally, under this sort of business, they'll have personally identifiable information that they would want to protect and keep under wraps. That's not something that they would want to make available to the public, as this data set was. So something to take into consideration there. And then to wrap it up, we would of course want their data analytics cultural process to include their values, mission, and vision. In their instance, a vision statement verbatim is, we, the Montgomery County Police Department, in cooperation with the community we serve, will work to enhance community relations and build trust through transparency, accountability, and strong leadership. We will strive to be a premier law enforcement agency by employing a highly educated, diverse, and technical workforce that utilizes purpose-driven technology and effectively balancing our resources to meet our mission needs. To me, that says data analytics, pure and simple. So this would be something easily incorporated into their vision statement as they begin to uncover the data analytics benefits that they would they would see. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. Hopefully this presentation demonstrated the added benefits that data analytics can have on an organization. Specifically for Montgomery County Department of Police, when you incorporate their mission, values, and vision, we begin to see how they can correlate the data that they've already collected into processes or benefits to create a more efficient department as a way of giving back to the community and reinforcing those values on the way to a better, more safe Montgomery County. Thank you.